So Trump's big, beautiful bill has caused a bit of a stir in the past couple of days because it has passed the House and it's moving on to it passed the House in May. It's moving on to the Senate, and it looks like it's going to become a reality. And this is something that Elon Musk has recently been causing a bit of trouble over. And to be honest with you, you can see why, actually. So let's have a summary of what's in it from the BBC here. So they tell us that the bill, because the thing is about American bills as well, is they are just hundreds of pages long.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of pages long.
Ron Paul tried to solve this.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Or was it Ron or Rand, actually? One of them tried to solve it.
One of the Pauls.
Yes, one of the Pauls tried to solve
saints.
this.
Yes.
And they failed, sadly.
Yeah, but yeah, so this is obviously open to abuse, which is the case now. And so here are just some of the things that are in it. So no tax on Social Security, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. Why is Social Security taxed? That doesn't make any sense. And so that's okay, fair enough. That makes sense.
And we're taxed in this country on Social Security.
Yeah, it's weird. Just reduce the amount of Social Security you give. The bureaucracy. Anyway, the deduction extensions begin to decrease after however much. Blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, fair enough. That's fine. Create more Medicaid requirements. So this is to help various other tax cuts elsewhere. They're adding additional restrictions and requirements to Medicaid, which is to reduce the amount of money they have to spend on that. And so one of them is, where is it? Put in new work requirements for childless adults without disabilities. So you have to work 80 hours a month in order to qualify for Medicaid, which if you're a childless adult without disabilities, why don't you have a job? Go get a job. Yeah. So fair enough. There's an increased cap on what they call the SALT tax. Now, SALT stands for state and local taxes. And so at the moment, there's a $10,000 cap on how much taxpayers can deduct from the amount they owe in federal taxes, which expires this year. And they want to raise that to $40,000 for married couples with incomes up to $500,000. So that's good for regular people. That's a good thing. There is also the SNAP benefits. So SNAP stands for, they love their acronyms, don't they? Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which are used by, the BBC tells us, 40 million low-income Americans, okay. And so the new bill requires that the states add more to this and reduce the amount of funding that the federal government puts into it. And it also adds work requirements for able-bodied SNAP enrollees. Again, very much similar to the Medicaid thing. Another thing that Trump made a big deal out of is no tax on overtime or tips, which is also in there. So, okay, fair enough. That's nice. Child tax credit is set to increase from 2005. It's weird because the BBC have said increase, but what they mean is decrease from 2,500. Oh no, sorry, increase to 2,500 from 2,000. And they have raised the debt ceiling to $4 trillion, which I
think is what Musk is really angry about.
Well, it's
one of the many things.
Well, the main issue with all of this is there are lots of tax cuts, but there is not revenue being raised, and so what this means is just massive amounts of extra debt, which is why they want to raise the debt ceiling. Now, you may remember that Doge has saved something like where is it? $170 billion.
Yeah.
Which is a staggering amount of money. And of course, Elon was trying to get to 2 trillion. He wanted 1 trillion, didn't get anywhere near it, obviously. And so that's a lot of money that is basically going to be wiped out by this bill.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the BBC estimate that this is going to increase the deficit by about 600 billion. Which, of course, is like 3 or 4 times more than what Elon was saving. So, brilliant.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to understand with it is there are 2 elements to this. One is the thing that we like, is that he's reducing taxes, particularly those for lower incomes. He's increasing it for those families with children where they get some kind of beneficial taxing, the 2,000 to 2,500. So what he's essentially saying is if you're the working person, on the lower incomes, although having said that, it can go up to $500,000, you can make a lot more money on this, and if you're an entrepreneur, you can make a lot more money onto this. And there is a big cost to that. There is a big cost in that we're going to have to increase the deficit. But hey, guys, look at what we managed to do. We made reductions of 100 and odd billion. Okay, it should be more. I agree.
Yep.
Secondly, we're going to bring in money from tariffs, and a lot of people are already recognizing he's made quite a lot from the tariffs so far.
Okay.
Just on the increases to that.
Do you have a number on that?
No, it's in the billions already. So I needed to look. I was just reading around the subject on that. And I think many of our kind of viewers from the States will probably be able to pick that up and say how much.
To be fair, so I just looked up 68 billion.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So it's 68 billion already on that.
So he's at 250 billion.
250 billion. So he's a third of the way. Now, I understood it that with that, there would have been, if Doge had been able to continue, that was the idea, that they cut more from that to be able to give people more money in their pockets. And then we get the benefit coming initially from the tariffs. And hopefully the long term, which is where Trump was saying, is that the long term, I'm going to be bringing jobs back on shore, which increases the ability to have jobs and increase wages. In the meantime, this is where Trump is right. Don't you think that if you've got a deficit, what's going to happen in the markets? What's going to happen to the left? They're going to use this argument, I would have thought.
The issue is that it's full of unfunded spending as well, which is not great, which is why it's increasing the deficit to 600 billion. And Elon has come out hard against this, saying, I'm sorry, I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You did wrong. You know it.
What is he specifically going for, then?
Well, he hasn't specified any one particular thing. But there is obviously loads of spending in it, and there is obviously lots of tax cuts that are going to just lead to the United States piling on more debt. And he's not wrong to point out that the debt is actually bonkers in America. I mean, we've talked about this before. And, I mean, is there anyone who thinks this is being paid back? Like, I don't see how this can be paid back. So anyway, he points out that the interest payments are already 25% of all government revenue. Oh, come on, this is
nonsense. This is just like a level of madness that everybody who argues government debt is not like household debt, and they hear this consistently. You know, governments can always find their way out of it, issue more money, inflationary. Let's increase taxes, borrow more from the international markets at lower rates. But it ignores the fact that you're borrowing on your asset, the house, and the people working within it, but the debt isn't going down.
No.
So eventually, someone needs to take the house off you. But who's going to do that?
I mean, paying $100 billion a month on interest on the debt alone is crazy. 1.2 trillion a year. I mean, that is mad. And the thing is, these all just sound like words, right? They're just words. It's 100 billion. It's 100 billion. It's a trillion. These are all just words, right?
So you get to a number that high, I'm just looking at it on the screen, it becomes conceptually impossible.
Exactly. But there is actually a fairly good way of conceptualizing it. So as Geiger Capital point out here, 1 million seconds ago was May the 23rd, right? So, less than a month ago. 1 billion seconds ago was 1993, but 1 trillion seconds ago was 30,000 BC. That is the scale of the difference in the numbers. that is, it gives you an impression of just how much larger than a billion a trillion is.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, right. So all of human accomplishment was done probably about 500 billion seconds ago, right? Like 1 billion seconds ago, I was a teenager, right? 1 million seconds ago was last month. Okay, I see. You see the scale creep.
It is huge.
It is unbelievable.
I mean, I think, isn't it? Someone suggests that if you put all the dollars of 1 trillion up, then it could actually go to Mars or something like that.
Oh yeah,
beyond the sun. Level up.
Yeah.
Someone did something ridiculous on YouTube or Twitter.
There are various graphics you can see.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Where people get like a pallet of $1 million and then $1 billion, and then they zoom out and it's $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Oh God. And so there are fiscal conservatives in the United States, obviously being led by Rand Paul, who are like, yeah, I've been pretty consistent on this. I oppose deficit spending. If we don't get serious about reining in debt, the next generation will pay the price. And it's like, man, like, you are right, but come on, look at the numbers. Like, it's not just the next generation that's going to pay the price. Like, how is this getting paid off? Like,
War.
no one, it's
War. That's what's going to happen.
yeah, probably it's
They will want a war which they can restructure the world and then turn around and say, no, we've snaffled the assets of China and impoverished them. We've snaffled the assets of Russia. We've done Iran. So now we've got a whole load more assets on our balance sheet. That will mix up the dollar a little bit, and somehow we'll manage to save our nation and the $1 trillion, and we can carry on spending, because we've managed to snaffle assets. But if you look at our history, I mean, you're much better at this. The South Sea bubble, and when we lost the empire, look what happened then. Eventually we can't keep going out and getting assets from somewhere else.
yeah.
Unless we find out there are Martians and they're pretty good, and Elon Musk's managed to help take it off them.
Unless we can steal the assets from the Martians. Yeah,
Exactly.
So basically, I sincerely feel where Rand Paul is coming from on this, but it feels very much like King Canute trying to hold back the tide. Where it's just like we should be fiscally responsible, guys. I think that ship's sailed, mate. And Rand Paul thinks that it's going to be something like $5 trillion that's added to the deficit in the end. I mean,
Gosh, I mean, what do we say on that?
yeah. Let's watch the segment just so we can tell us about it.
$5 trillion.
In a separate post, Trump said there's a false narrative about spending in this bill. He said it is, quote, single biggest spending cut in history by far. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul joins me now. Mr. Senator, I know you want more spending cuts included in the bill. Can you tell us what specifically you'd want to cut?
Yeah, it's even more than that. The biggest objection I have to the bill is adding $5 trillion to the debt ceiling. I'm actually very supportive of the tax cuts. I don't accept the CBO notion that the tax cuts will lead to deficits. The reason I believe there'll be more deficits is they're raising the debt ceiling $5 trillion. We know that this year, most of the Republicans, not me, voted to continue the Biden spending levels in March. So we're going to go through September of this year, and the deficit for this year is going to be over $2 trillion. If you're borrowing $5 trillion, that makes me think you're going to add over $2 trillion, maybe $2.8 trillion next year. So it doesn't show me that you've turned around. If you look at the spending cuts, it's complicated because it's at $1.5 trillion. It sounds like this enormous number, but it's over 10 years, so it's $150 billion a year. They're also increasing spending for the military and for the border, $300 billion. That's actually more than all the DOGE cuts that we've found so far. So something doesn't really add up here. And I can't be on record as being one who supports increasing the debt by $5 trillion. I think that's irresponsible. The bond markets are already starting to show that they're skittish over this. Yeah. We got interest rates of over 5% on the 10-year bond. There are real problems we face as a country, and we can't just blithely go on the way we have in the past.
So as you can see, Rand Paul addressing the issue is this is a massive structural problem. That is just not being addressed, and saying, we've got 300 billion in cuts or whatever. Okay, but that's not going to solve the problem, because the scale of what is happening is just way bigger than people can properly conceptualize.
It is. I'm just trying to run some numbers, looking back what you said with Doge 169 and what he's saying, 150 billion in a year. So that amounts to 300 billion, but that's the amount that you're putting on the borders and the military. Okay, you might be happy with that. But at the end of the day, he said there was 2.8 billion additional spending. 300 is identified. Where's the other 2.5? What are they spending it on?
Military and various other things like this, right? But the thing is, again, even if they were correct, okay, let's say it gets us back to like 1400 if we were to convert the billions into the seconds. We're still in something like 100,000 BC when it comes to the debt. So it's like, okay, we've got ourselves back to the Middle Ages. Okay, got a long way to go then, And so it's just one of those things where it's just like this is not going to be solved via democratic means.
Are there anyone out there in Trump's team that have come out positively and said this is a fantastic idea, other than himself, on this?
Really big. I mean, he must have run this through advisors who all wrote it up for him.
But this, in many ways, this is kind of just business as usual. I mean, this is one of the things that Elon Musk is objecting to. Yeah. Oh, look, a massive pork barrel congressional spending bill. This is not new. This is completely normal, completely business as usual. And to be honest with you, it's probably how Trump manages to get past all the rhinos. Anyway, so there are other things in there which is weird as well. Now, this was a particularly strange thing because Marjorie Taylor Greene got pilloried for this because everyone's like, "What? You didn't read the bill?" It's like it's 1,000 pages long. Of course she didn't. No one of them did. You know, they get a bunch of lawyers to read it, and then the lawyers tell them what they think they need to know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she voted for it, and then it turned out, and she says this: full transparency. I did not know that on pages 278 to 279, again, just novel length. She'd have to get into it to find this, but there's a prescription there that strips states of the right to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years.
That's very strange.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? I haven't got an answer to why they've got that in there either.
States can't regulate AI for 10 years.
Yeah.
Well,
Would mean that
they can't make laws about AI or regulate it. So they can't ban it.
And I could theorize. Who's that one who works with Blair? Is it Larry Ellison?
Yeah.
Could be. It's,
is he part of the TechSphere Association with people like Peter Thiel and
Sam Altman,
Alex Karp, who have connections through Palantir to JD Vance? Is that to ensure that a large organization like Palantir can't be regulated or held back in the ways that they wouldn't like?
Well, not just Palantir either, because I mean, at the moment, China is trying to catch up with America on AI development, but they're significantly behind. They're not nearly there. America is definitely the world leader in AI.
Well,
and so what this does is protect that industry for at least a decade.
Well, and doing that, I think there's also a military side of it. If you've got regulations, it might.
Well, I mean,
Palantir
might have very heavily involved in military
on that.
as well.
Of course, you're seeing the challenges that companies like NVIDIA, which has about 86% of the major AI chips, and then AMD, which only has about 17%, all of them facing restrictions on their latest chips and semiconductor components being sold. But also, like the big Dutch company, that is one of the most important countries, is prevented from selling any of its products now to China. And they all are putting estimates that we're going to lose 1.6 billion, 1.7 billions of dollars of profits not being going to China because of that. So maybe that's an element of saying this is federal. We're not even going to allow anyone to get involved in it, and that's not capitalist.
Well, it's
cronyism,
but
absolutely,
of
course it is.
Even if it was, it's also directly against, as Marjorie points out, the states' rights issue. As in, the states, of course, should be able to make their own laws. And she says, I'm adamantly opposed to this as a violation of states' rights. And had I known about it, I would have voted no. And she's getting completely pilloried for this, and it's not fair at all because none of them bloody read it. Shut up, you didn't read it. I don't believe.
I don't believe that any Congress member in the US reads any of the papers that comes across their desks.
So it's going to be 1,000 pages long.
The whole point of making them so long is to ensure that just the sheer time investment that you'd have to put into it makes it just so, okay, hand it off to some guy who can give me some bullet points, or now feed it into AI and get Grok to give me the bullet points.
Which actually might be the better way to do it, to be honest.
That's why the polls are pretty good, because they've got so much experience of being able to read these bills that they've effectively got their own models of knowing when they need to go too quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point being of all of this, it's actually in many ways business as usual. Elon Musk has stared into the abyss, the umbral darkness of federal spending, and he seems quite upset about it, to be honest. And I don't blame him. Like the very optimistic, hey guys, maybe we can balance the budget. Yeah, no, that's not happening. And you can see why he's given up, frankly. So nothing new, essentially, in this regard. The debt is going to continue to increase. The amount you have to pay to service the debt is going to continue to increase. It's never going to be fixed. Anyway.
It's deeply depressing, isn't it?
It is.
See that the success he was beginning to get, and then they fought back and got rid of him.
Yeah, and not only that, though, you, like, looking ahead into the future, you just realise, okay, that's going to be a problem that's going to keep rearing its head. It's never going to go away. The one chance that they had to fix it, as Elon was putting it, and they didn't do it.
Well, Elon, by the sounds of it, actually did want to enact some kind of structural change to how the US government
I think he did.
works, and the swamp has its own defence mechanisms there.
Yeah.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.